Hi, I'm Lee, and this is my daughter's 2012 Ford Focus. Short time ago, she had a little bit of an issue with her fender and dented it. I took it off the car and tried to straighten it out the best I could, and it doesn't look horrible, but I bought some over-the-counter type of paint that just didn't look great, and really wanted to do a better job for her. So lucky for me, I went to my nearby auto salvage yard, and they happen to have another 2012 Ford Focus that was the same color. I'm going to take this new fender that appears to be nearly perfect shape, and I'm going to simply replace it. New fender only cost about $100, which would be far less than replacing it with a new fender and then having it repainted to match the car. And because it appears to be an original fender, the color should be perfect match when I'm done. So I'll take you through the steps. Right below it, I have all the tools I believe I'm going to need. I have a socket wrench with a 10mm. I have a Torx with a T27 rather, and a couple flathead screwdrivers. So let's get started. I'm going to start by opening the hood. When doing this, there are a couple things that we're going to need to do. We're going to need to remove the headlight at each of the T27 points. We're going to have to remove sockets here and here. There are two bolts rather, that are kind of behind here, so I'll have to remove part of this. I know that is damaged, but I'm not going to replace the whole bumper for that. That's going to stay as is. There is a socket or two behind there. There is a bolt or socket kind of in the fender, and then finally there are two down here, and I'll have to remove or at least lower that in order to get that done. So I'm going to start by loosening screws around the headlights. This one is loose. Put them someplace for safekeeping. This should hopefully lift just straight up. Next, I'm going to open the door so I can try to separate the molding so I can get the two bolts at the very bottom. Okay, I'll put a screwdriver between the molding and the body of the car and just kind of pop this out. So I'll move this molding down so it's partly under the door so that I can leverage the door to kind of hold down while I unbolt those bolts. Next, I'm going to use a screwdriver to pop this. As you can see, I broke these two plastic pieces that will allow it to stay fit, so I'll have to stop at an auto store to get those. But while I'm here, I will take advantage of this and start to loosen this. Can remove that bolt. Next, I will start on these. Next, I'm going to pull this away from the car so I can get to those last two bolts, which should be right down in there. I decided to switch to a 1/4-inch drive because it was smaller and able to clear the plastic, and I could get in there more easily. The last bolt. The last thing I need to do is release one more bolt inside that I need to bend the fender partly back for. There is some sort of foam spacer that needs to be replaced first, or pulled out first, and then access to the last bolt. Okay, free that bolt up, and hopefully this just slips right off. Just took off the old fender. Make sure to check for clips along the wheel well. Here is the replacement fender. It looks like pretty much a perfect paint match, since it does to be paint from the factory original. And we'll start to do the process backwards. Okay, I've laid the fender roughly in place and just started the bolt that is in there, and I'm going to tighten that up and go from there. Now that I have the fender attached, of course, make sure that that bolt looks like it will roughly line up, and you want to put the foam spacer back into place. Key is the notch that's out is towards the top and towards the inside of the car. Make sure when you line the fender back up that the plastic before this notch is on the outside of the fender, and the plastic after this notch is inside of the fender. Hard to see because of the sunlight. Now that that foam is back in place, I will move the front of this back into place. Keep in mind, when you tighten this little flange, when it attaches there, should be just about, but not quite, to the top of this plastic or metal piece that it attaches to, and it should line up very nicely when this attaches to the other piece. Giving it that last tighten now. Next, before I secure down here, I'm going to put the bolts up top, and conveniently, because of the way the paint is and where the dirt changes, it's very easy to see exactly where it should go. Of course, this should be on top. This little clippy thing should be in front, and obviously we'll push that forward when we get to do the rear, and then of course the bottom at the end. Okay, I just tightened these two bolts back into place. Of course, clip is back in. Next, I'm going to go to here and then to the bottom ones. This one should be fairly easy to do. That is now tightened, and we'll finish up by doing the bolts on the bottom. It's important as you're tightening these bolts that you make sure you maintain the correct spacing before you tighten down on the first one. And now I'll tighten down on the second one. Next, we'll push this into place. This is pretty simple, pretty much all that's to it. And we'll put the molding back in place on the side. To put this back in place, you kind of need to lift up and then let the clippy things inside go down into the spot. I need both hands for that. Okay, we need to get this back into place. Light is already connected, so I just disconnect it. Put these bolts back into place with our T27. I need to get new clips for the side, but as you can see, fender is back in place. Almost like there was never any damage. Obviously the car needs a good bath because the car is dirty, but the new fender is clean. So hopefully we'll get everything looking great in just a few seconds. So here's the car all put back together. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you want to see more tips and tricks.